Hey guys, welcome to another episode. Today, we're down here in Johnson City at one of the big national parks, and we're visiting down here to actually do a photo shoot for my family for the holidays. And so we've invited Luke from the Highwayman Vintage to help us out with curating all these great clothes so that everybody can wear that stuff and have a fun photo shoot for our family and let you guys enjoy it on this episode. Let's go meet Luke. This show and this episode are about some fashion in Texas. And as we go through Texas and highlight the different places and people and things and industries and businesses and passions that people have and the artistry that we have here in the state, we wanted to take a moment and have a conversation with Luke here. Luke is with the Highwayman Vintage out of Willis, Texas. And so he's been kind enough to help us curate a bunch of clothes for today and things like that. But first off, thanks for being on the show and
hey,
thanks for helping us out.
Sir. Thank you.
And first off, just kind of share with the audience, like, you know, who are you, where are you from, and what are you about?
Sure. So yeah, I'm Luke Cipriano. My vintage business is the Highwayman Vintage. I'm just a dude out here slinging vintage, finding cool stuff and selling it and passing it on to people. And I do a fashion show out in Round Top, Warrenton, Texas. And I have a lot of friends that are involved with it too. So I'm a designer and now I'm a stylist for this wonderful family here.
Nice. Well, we're excited to jump into all the great stuff you've curated for this, but how'd you get into this? Like, you know, is it something you've done since you were young, or is it something more recent?
Yeah, so I grew up out in basically out there going probably every show we used to show up when I was a kid out to Warrenton and Round Top, Texas. And of course, we always hit up flea markets and stuff when I was a kid too. Bussey's in San Antonio,
yeah,
that's a big one. Winnie, we used to go to Winnie a lot. And so I just kind of grew up in the culture of, you know, flipping stuff.
Yeah.
And so me and my mother and my father, we used to always go shop Round Top in Warrenton. And so one year we decided, well, let's try and sell there. You know, we have so much stuff we can sell, get rid of, you know, and we'd been collecting a little bit. And so we started out with just a 20 by 20 tent.
Yeah.
And where our space is out there in Rank Hall Field, Warrenton, Texas. And it blew up. We just started, you know, doing more and more out there. So we've been out in Warrenton, Texas for 15 years at that location.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And then for people watching that don't know, you know, the Round Top market's a huge deal, right?
Huge.
Like it's an international really draw at this point in time. And there's 2 times a year, right? They do the big ones. Yeah.
Spring.
Can you share a little bit about what that is and how you got into that?
Sure. So spring show is usually in March, April. And then the fall show is usually October.
Okay.
And we just decided to try that one rather than going somewhere like Winnie, you know, because we frequented Round Top more than anywhere. My involvement in the fashion and the clothing side of it, right when I was about a freshman in college, you know, I was wearing cool stuff. And I said, well, maybe other people would like this. So I started buying old Western hats, boots, clothing, and that's kind of where I came in to my business and started the Highwayman Vintage because it's stuff that I like.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, if I like it, maybe other people will, and a lot of people have.
Yeah, that's great. And so you're doing stuff for fashion shows. You sell stuff out of your business, and then you go to these markets and do other stuff. But talk to us a little bit about when you talk about like a vintage look, and you stick with mostly Western wear and those kind of classical looks. But what is that? Because there's some people that may be watching this that don't really know what vintage means.
Sure. So most of my product is what I call vintage is anything older than about 25 years, which is weird now, you know, being close to that age.
Older than you.
Yeah, a little bit, but yeah, older than me. And so that's what vintage truly is, in my opinion. Is anything prior to, you know, the 2000s now is kind of considered vintage. Even 2000 stuff is vintage.
Yeah.
What I sell mainly is 70s and back.
Okay.
That's kind of what I like. And I'll go for some 80s clothing as well. But yeah, you know, vintage clothing is just your old grandpa stuff that's hanging in the closet. But it matters how you style it. You know, if you know, this shirt or this vest, you know, some guy wore it, whatever, but then it looks good when you pair it together and you wear it. So that's kind of the art of vintage styling, you know? And so, you know, and not everything is desirable vintage, you know?
Right.
So we like older, you know, Western wear in particular. Obviously living in Texas, you know, growing up around cowboys and stuff, that's what I fell in love with. So, you know, vintage is everything, you know. It's the boots I'm wearing, it's the shirts, it's everything. So That's vintage clothing for me.
Yeah.
I like that old Western wear.
Gotcha. Well, so you've been able to curate some stuff for us, and I thought what would be cool is if you could kind of walk through what you did and how you put it together and your thought behind that, because there's a methodology you have with it. It's not like you just take random pieces of clothes and throw them together.
Yeah.
There's a look you're trying to accomplish, and there's something we're trying to accomplish with the photo shoot we're doing for my wacky family.
Yeah, man.
And so maybe just walk us through a little bit about what
Sure.
you got, where you got it, what it is,
Sure.
that kind of stuff.
So over here, I started with these old, this is a 1950s deerskin jacket. And these were really popular back in the day. And a lot of them were made in Berlin, Wisconsin. So back at this time period, you could actually take elk hides and deer hides and get them made into these jackets. You could bring them to the company. It was really cool. So I paired that with a 1950s pearl snap as well. It's a heavier duty shirt as well. And so,
oh wow.
And that was kind of my look for this, is I was going to go for 50s, 60s, 70s. That's kind of the core of what I wear and sell. Just old school Western, you know, because if we're going to do it Western, we're going to do it all the way. So that's what you're wearing. Same thing with Tamra. We got this killer jacket. It's a matching set to the other one.
Okay.
And this is an old killer vintage pearl snap with the cactus. I mean, it's killer. So same thing. Yeah.
Good question to interrupt you on this. So I'm always interested in this one because you're digging back into older clothes that, you know, in today's world, when we look at a lot of the stuff we buy, it's like almost disposable clothing, right?
Yes.
Like it doesn't last very long. So this stuff's 40, 50, 60, 70 years old.
No joke.
How come this stuff holds up? And the other stuff we get today is just like literally you wear it for a year and it's not, you can't do anything with it. Like this stuff, a lot of stuff we have, it'll never make it to be vintage because it'll fall apart.
100%. So coming out of World War II in particular, you had this craze of, okay, we don't want anything imported anymore. Imported stuff used to be really finely made prior to like 1940s.
Okay.
But it slacked off greatly after the war. And synthetic materials kind of introduced in the 60s, right?
Okay.
So America decided, well, we're going to make our own clothing. So some of the best clothing is from the 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s. And that's kind of the end of the stuff made in America, USA clothing. So it was by our own people and with our own materials. Just like I said, this jacket, some guy went and killed this elk to make this jacket.
Right.
You know, and then in America, it's American all the way through. So same thing with this vest, you know, that's going to be worn by Peyton. So it's just that there's two things I think that make things desirable later on that's going to end up being vintage. First of all is the quality of the product, right? So is it something mass produced? You know, if there's 1,000 of them, you know, and there's so much repeat of it, then yeah, that's going to hurt it to be valuable later on, right? So there's probably only a few hundred of these jackets still around, you know, but they were worn to death. And so that's why they ended up going away. But even this one, worn so good, is still in such good shape. So it was just the materials they made things with back in the day. You know, if I wanted to go buy this shirt right here, which is made with wool gabardine from the 50s, right? I cannot buy this material. They do not produce it anymore. So that's another thing too. The materials were made better. You know, the wool came from the United States. It was processed in a mill in the United States. So see, that made a big difference. So it's material and the craftsmanship of it. Those are the two things that really make something last so long for so many years. And in my opinion, that's what's going to be good vintage later on. You know, my glasses that are Moscats will be desirable 50 years from now. Right. You know, this Stetson hat that I'm wearing will be desirable 50 years from now because it's made so well. So I believe in quality clothing, and that's why you see so many people wearing vintage nowadays, is because it is quality clothing. So it wouldn't be here.
It's really made in America, which you don't see any clothing new that's made in America.
No.
Hardly. I mean, unless it's some type of designer that's from here and they make three versions of it or whatever it is.
Exactly.
Cool. Well, I interrupted you, but what else did you have that you want to show us?
So
one of the things that's interesting too, like, where do you find this stuff? Like, you know, it's because I'm sure it's not, you know, you don't just walk into a store or a garage sale and find a ton of it. You may, but you may luck out, but do you have a methodology or places that you kind of hit regularly?
So I, in particular, buy a lot at shows. So I'll travel the US. So I like to go to Alameda Antiques Fair in San Francisco, over there in Alameda. I also like to go to Brimfield, Massachusetts. That's a good show.
Okay.
You know, and you can buy a lot of good clothing there. So there, as well as estate sales, garage sales, eBay, Etsy, Facebook Marketplace. I mean, online, you know, as much as I can buy, I just everywhere, you know, I never stop looking. I'm like always on the hunt. Highwayman on the hunt.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Anything else out here you want to show us or highlight?
So one of the things that's kind of my personal favorite are this pioneer clothing is so cool. Because the Wild West kind of ended in the 1920s, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it ran from, you know, 1860s after the Civil War to 1920s, 1930. Right?
Yep.
You know, that was the end. Kind of Wyatt Earp, when he died, kind of everything after that, it got phased out. So these shirts are from that period. This one, and that one there.
Yep.
So these are all true pioneer shirts. So this would have been worn from day to night. And I love really old, true vintage. I mean, these shirts are over 100 years old and they're still in such good shape.
Yeah, that's incredible.
So, and that goes back to the materials. This were made here.
Yeah.
You know, and so
in comparison to like a shirt I got that I washed 3 times, it fell apart.
That's right. Yeah, that's 100%. Yeah.
So that's awesome. So we're excited to kind of get things going with the photo shoot, show how you put these things together for each person. We're going to capture some footage on that and really highlight what you're doing there. But for the audience, like, how do they find you? How do they get in touch with you if they're looking to do something like this or just buy some great vintage Western clothing?
Sure. So, you know, always hit up your local thrift stores and stuff is great. I would also recommend look online, you know, but I'm always a try on in person kind of thing. So, definitely check out Warrenton and Round Top, Texas, if you haven't been there before. It's probably the best show in the country, in my opinion. I've been to Brimfield, and like I said, it's a different kind of vintage. It's more smalls and stuff, but to buy clothing, there is so many dealers out at Warrenton and Round Top, Texas. I mean, you can't go there without buying a piece of clothing.
Yeah.
You can reach me on Instagram at the Highwayman Vintage, all one word. But yeah, it's, you know, hit me up there. I usually do a couple shows in Austin citywide, and I'll always be in the spring and fall show out in Warrenton, Texas.
Awesome. Well, why don't we do this? Let's get started with the photo shoot,
Sure.
and then we'll see how things go.
All right, let's do it. So here we got Kippy now in a cute little bitty cowgirl outfit. I love the whole ensemble here. So starting at the top, we have a 1920s, 1930s Miller hat. Going on down to her shirt, a vintage Sears Western wear, believe it or not. Sears had some cool stuff back in the day. A little bitty child squash blossom, which are so rare to find now. Killer leather vest with the fringe. Got some cool holsters, and then her denim jeans and some boots with espuelas. My favorite piece I think she's got on here has got to be her hat. It's really difficult to find these older Miller hats. What's funny is at the time they were a cheaper brand than somebody like Stetson or Resistol, but they made really gorgeous hats, and I think because they were cheaper, they tried to focus on the accoutrement of the hat. So the ribbon up on top is actually 2 separate grosgrain ribbons. And so what they did is they stitched them together to get this cool 2-tone look. And so that's really kind of rare, and if you turn your head this way, you can see this killer stitching on the side. It's a really unique hat, and they're hard to find. All of these cowboys and cowgirls got it going on. Same thing here. She just, you know, was out on the prairie with mom and dad. And so now here we go. We got another killer cowboy in the raisin. The outfit we got cash in here. We got a 1920 Stetson. Following on down to an H-bar C shirt, probably from about the 60s or 70s. Classic corduroy sports coat, probably about the same era, 60s, 70s. Wearing a cool 1950s pistol over there, just a little cap gun, when boys could be boys and have cool toys. Denim jeans, and then a pair of boots. So the pistol, you got it there in your hand. So this is made by Nichols, which was a toy company back in the 1950s. And they kind of went up until the 80s, but stopped after that. I don't know what happened with their company, but they used to make really cool toys. And this is when boys weren't idiots and ran around and aimed them at people, you know, in public, you know. And if they did, they knew they were toys. Nowadays, we can't have that. But anyways, it's a killer pistol. I love the pairing with this old original, about the same era, 1950s holster. It's just super neat, and I wanted to showcase an old toy and the stuff to go with it. The idea for this ensemble for me was I wanted something like a country gentleman. You know, when you're a young man, you know, you got to look good. And my dad always told me that. So you always smell good, you look good, haircut, boots shine, you look good always. So, and he is a handsome dude. So he looks good in this little outfit. So country gentleman. All right, now we got Towner over here wearing a really cool custom silver belly hat there. Going on down to this amazing sweater. I love anything Southwestern, but it's really hard to find good Southwestern sweaters and that aren't just the wraparound vests, the shawl collar. So it's really unique. I think it's about from the 1960s or so. Also got a more contemporary Navajo piece there, about 1990s or so. Gorgeous little flower. Denim pants, and then she's got her boots on. So my favorite piece in this ensemble is probably the sweater. I found this one in Long Beach, California, and it's so neat. You know, back in the day, to imagine walking into a store, you know, like a Cavender's or whatever, and finding that on the rack, I would have died, you know. And so I was so excited when I found this. The border down at the bottom with the matching of the cuffs, the collar piece. It's neat to see that people really cared about clothing back then and what people were wearing. Just like everybody today has been rocking really cool stuff. With this one, I'm thinking, you know, it was more of like a boho kind of 1960s look. So, you know, her jeans have a little bit of a flair to them. But I mean, genuinely, if you would have walked down the streets of San Fran or LA back in the day in the 60s when California was still country, you know, that's what you would have seen, was something just like this. So Peyton is over here wearing a 1980s Stetson open crown, very unique. There's only about 2 or 3 of these ever made, paired with a 1950s gabardine western shirt, a killer 1950s Zuni squash blossom necklace, 1960s or so suede vest, her denim jeans, and some boots. The shirt that Peyton's wearing here is a 1950s gabardine shirt, and it's wool gabardine. So at this time period, wool was kind of the big thing to go to for the reason of drape. It laid better on people, and for whatever reason, that was kind of the way fashion went after World War II. At this time, all of this fabric would have been made in the USA. And you see a lot of the old cowboys and cowboy actors and country singers, rockabilly singers, all wore these cool Western shirts. So it's pretty unique to find them, and I like them always when they have the chain stitch. So my idea behind the outfit that Peyton is wearing here kind of came together, you know, just on the set here. She didn't have a hat, so we threw my hat on her, which is a killer Stetson open crown from about the 1980s. And the minute we threw the hat on her with the fringe vest, we were like, you know what, let's braid her hair. So we braided her hair, got the whole Indian kind of vibe going, and it just came together so good. And so it's killer. Every bit of it, I was so excited. So it's as if a badass Indian just got off the horse and was ready to go into town. Boom, there you go.
It's perfect.
So I'm with Tam. She's rocking a custom built hat, made and styled by herself. We got a 1915 or so squash blossom Hopi necklace, paired with also a 1960s plaid shirt, killer, custom shirt, 1950s deer skin jacket, 1950s concho Navajo belt with a cool little 1950s pistol in there, and then a custom pair of 1940s boots. So this squash blossom necklace here is a pretty old one, and they're kind of usually seen in museums more so than on people. This necklace is what they call a box and bow squash blossom. So you see that every one of these has a little box behind it and the bow. Looks like a little bow tie. You'll also notice that each one of these stones has a dot of turquoise in the middle of it, every one of them. The reason it's like that is because back in the teens, this is how they carried the beads, was on sets of strings. So this was at one point, we had a native wearing this as a string of beads, decided one day, you know what, I'm gonna make it into a necklace. So they unstrung it, got all this coin silver at this time period, and made a killer squash blossom necklace. So my kind of idea with this outfit, and you'll notice Eric's here in a second, they were kind of paired together. I wanted kind of like a cowboy that's just got off the range, but going out on the town way back when. So it's kind of the mix in, and they would have carried a pistol with them for whatever reason. And evidently she was a trader or did some trading with the natives. So she's got all this killer turquoise. I just wanted something that was, she's a mean cowboy killing machine, so it's killer. That was my idea for it. So. All right, we got Eric over here. So he's rocking a whole bunch of cool stuff today. So starting with this beautiful felt hat up there. We've got a 1960s, 70s or so squash blossom necklace, 1950s pearl snap wool plaid shirt, got this killer 1950s deer wear elk skin jacket. We also have a model of an 1887 Remington percussion cap pistol. And then all the way down to his boots down there, those are old Justin Sea Turtle boots. So for me, I think he's got so much great stuff on, but what I want to focus on is the stuff that we're not supposed to have. So the boots he's wearing down there are about 1960s or 70s Justin Sea Turtles. So believe it or not, they make boots out of sea turtle, and they use the arm and right up to the armpit of the sea turtle. It is sad when you think about it, but they're already dead, they already been skinned, so might as well wear them. Now they are illegal. If you tried to go purchase a pair brand new in the USA, they don't have them. Although you can still get them in Mexico. I wanted something just like killer cowboy, gets off the horse going into town, threw on a nice shirt and a jacket, cool hat, still got his pistol on, and he's dressed up ready to go honky tonkin'.
All right, well, man, this has been absolutely a blast. I mean, I think you picked out clothing and outfits for each one of us that so matched the personalities of what we were trying to do with the photo shoot that we're doing for the family. So that part's just utterly amazing to watch the smiles on the kids' faces and them light up with the guns and holsters and spurs and hats and everything else. So, getting to capture all that and almost like a walk back into the past, with that. So I can't wait to see what the pictures look like. But thank you so much for being on the show. We've had so much fun having you on here, and we look forward to seeing you out at Round Top this next year when we come out to the market.
Thank you so much.
And this fantastic job. And again, if you're looking for Luke, you can find him on Instagram or online, as he mentioned earlier. And give him a shout or come visit him at one of these markets out here in Texas, because there's him out there, but there's a whole lot of other good people doing a lot of cool stuff as well. So thanks for watching. Give us a like, a subscribe, and a share, and we'll see you on the next time on the Cowboy Experience. Adios.